Thank you, first of all, Miss Julia, for being part of the podcast here. We have lots to dive into. I'm very curious about where you're at today and what you're involved with. I always like to take a step back of like how you got here, though. Early days, would you consider yourself a foodie? Let's start there. Oh. Would you consider yourself like a possessed food connoisseur? What's your relationship with food?
It's a great question. I love food.
Okay.
Definitely would consider myself a foodie. In my home growing up, like we love cooking together and eating together. I'm one of 7 kids, so it's like a big crew in the house. So dinner is a production every night.
Yeah.
It's something my dad and I love to do together because we both love cooking. So it was oftentimes him and I that would be preparing this like massive meal for my family.
You're one of 7.
Yeah.
Where are you at in the mix?
I'm third.
You're third. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So what is a typical third-born personality type? Just, is it a go with the flow? Is it trying to stand out and have your own voice heard? Growing up, helping your dad, were you the only one in the kitchen helping? Was that just like the vibe or what?
Yeah, I would say as third-born, I'm very go with the flow.
Okay.
It's kind of like the whole middle chunk of our family are like the middle kids. There's like 3 of us that have like middle kid personalities.
Yeah.
And then there's like oldest and youngest.
Okay.
But cooking with my dad, it was oftentimes like the whole crew in the kitchen.
Okay.
My family's like very loud and very close. So like a
Italian,
night at home,
like what's the, when I think of loud, I just always immediately, it's probably terrible of me to think of Italian family, but like any ancestor DNA that could speak to that loudness?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, just loud.
Yeah, just loud. Okay. I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
Probably just like a lot of big personalities.
Okay.
But yeah, it'd be like someone playing the piano, someone playing games, maybe someone having a little argument, like the dog barking, drinks being mixed, me and my dad cooking, other people helping out, my mom doing dishes. It was always just like crazy and loud and fun and music. And I loved that environment growing up.
So I want to stay with the family environment just for a second longer because I find it very fascinating. 7 kids. You were number 3. Mm-hmm. Did you find being a part of a big family was like it? Because a lot of times if you're like a single child or even one of 2, like there's a completely different dynamic, obviously, versus 7 kids. Did you find that now looking back, like, oh, I had the most amazing childhood? Is that kind of the sentiment?
Yeah, definitely.
Because of what specifically? Because you love the chaos? I
love the chaos. And like I love my family and my siblings. Like at this point, 6 of us live in Tulsa. We all grew up in St. Louis. My parents still live in St. Louis.
Okay.
My little sister Ruthie is in high school in St. Louis still. But all of the rest of us live in Tulsa. And we still like all hang out all the time. Like last night I did like a Galentine's with my 3 sisters that are in town.
I love that.
And it's so fun. Like they're genuinely my best friends. And I feel so lucky that like I had that built in from birth. Like all these great people that were like-minded and like to eat and have fun and all of that.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. So your dad taught you how to cook. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? So what early on were you like, was it everything or was it a certain genre? Let's dive into now the food side of things. Like what did you really enjoy growing up making with your dad?
We made everything. He's like a super adventurous eater and an adventurous chef. So it didn't really, he would just see a recipe and that's what we would make. And he taught me a lot about like seasoning to taste and stuff because he's the type of person that like reads a recipe, buys the ingredients, and then like closes the book and just kind of starts throwing it together and making it. And that was great for me to learn because I am a little bit more like analytically minded. And so seeing him like close the book and not use it, that would stress me out. Like there's instructions. I don't know why.
Like, why are we not reading
Why
this?
are we not following them? And he was like, no, you got to do this. And like kind of just taught me how to be a little bit more intuitive in my cooking to the point where I was able to like be like, oh, I get it. It is fun to just close the book and start ad-libbing and making our own thing.
That's super cool. So growing up, Dad teaching you basically the chops of what this is. What was your first position, maybe in a kitchen, maybe even, I don't know, in some sort of a dining hall? Where was your first position? How'd you get there? Did you always think, I got to do this for a living? Like growing up, was that the drive?
Not really, honestly. I loved it growing up, and as a kid, I would be like, I'm going to be a chef when I grow up. But I also wanted to be like a hairstylist and an astronaut, and it was on the list of all the things I wanted to be when I grew up.
Sure.
But once I actually started like my college career and stuff, I decided I wanted to go like a more corporate route and just traditional route, and so that's what I did. And I worked
What did you do? You said corporate route. What did you do?
I was a software developer
Okay.
for about 2 years.
And that's what you went to school for? Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
why did you pick the safe and not the daring, like, I'm going to be, like, was there a decision there of, like, I want to go more of the safe route, 9 to 5 route?
Honestly, I don't feel like it was a decision.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it was just kind of like, well, this is what you're supposed to do with your life. Like, it's what my older siblings did. It's what my parents did. Like, you go to college, you get a job.
Okay.
And that's what you do. And you can, like, cook and have fun on the side. But, like, you do a job that makes you enough money to do the things that you love.
Wow.
But, yeah, then the pandemic hit, and I started working from home. And just during that time, I think everyone had a lot of time for, like, self-reflection, like, what you actually want in life.
Sure.
And I was cooking a ton. I was like, I love this. Like, this is so fun. And at that time, this team was at Vintage Wine Bar, and they had this great Instagram account that made me laugh all the time. They seemed like they had a blast. And so I was just at one of Vintage's parties and walked up to them and was like, hey, are you hiring? Well, actually, it was my friend Mary who walked up for me because I was too scared.
Okay.
And they're like, actually, yeah, we're hiring. So I texted them the next day and started working there part-time for a little bit.
Still during COVID times. Okay.
It was kind of when it come out of COVID. I can't remember at what point it was. Like, things weren't great yet, but things were kind of a little bit more open. It was early 2021, I guess. And so yeah, I did it part-time for a bit while I was also doing my corporate job, and that ended up being way too much. And also during that time, I picked up, like, a second restaurant job so that I could, like, get more learning and, like, figure out what was going on better. It was way too much to handle all of it. So at one point, you had
3 different jobs. One, the corporate software, and you said software, software engineer. Development. Just let's go nerdy just for a second. What are you a coder then? What do you code in? Like, what is your, like, what were you taught? What were you doing in this job?
Yeah, I was, I coded mostly in Python, which I loved.
Yeah,
honestly, that's the thing. I loved my last job. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it.
Sure. Do you ever find that you want to do that in your free time, or
no.
That's you're done with the coding idea?
Yeah. No, I feel like it's hard because there are developers out there that are like, I do this all day at work, and then I go home and keep doing it.
Yes.
And I think that's so admirable, but I don't have quite that drive. I know it's something I can do and something I'm good enough at, but it's not like my passion that I want to do all of the time. So, I mean, as I look back into getting into the corporate realm, I'm looking for something like a little less technical and a little bit more like people focused. Because after working here, I was like, I like people way more than computers. So I'd rather have a job that focuses on, like, that aspect of what I like and personality versus just hammering at code all day, which is also fun. But
so you had 3 jobs. One of them is a professional job, and then basically 2 kitchen jobs. Learning. Why did you pick up that second kitchen job? You mentioned you wanted to just learn.
Yeah.
What were you feeling like you were deficient in?
So at that point at Vintage, everyone else was full-time and I was part-time, which was kind of an exception. Like, they weren't in the business of hiring part-time people.
Got it.
And so I didn't get a ton of shifts right when I started, which obviously makes sense because I was part-time.
Right.
But I felt like I wasn't growing as fast as everyone else. And I had heard about, through the team, a different restaurant in town that just needed some help. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm free in the evenings, so I might as well just give it a shot and get a little bit more practice under my belt so I can kind of keep up with these people a little bit better.
And you found that helped you then at Vintage with that team of just, like, the knowledge. How long did you work that second job for?
Not super long. It was a couple months, like maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it was at Dr. Custom in Mother Road Market, which actually Chef Alex there got a James Beard nomination this year. Awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, he was great to work with.
You at some point decided this corporate life is not for me. Was that in this whole process of, like, working at Dr. Custom and then maybe voicing to the team at Vintage, hey, I want to come on full time here. That is the goal here.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they had an opening or were just staffing up because they were busy, or how did that go?
Yeah, basically like that. Yeah, I realized that doing all 3 of those jobs was burning the candle at both ends, and I could not keep doing it. And then I looked at, like, what do I like more?
Yeah.
And I was like, I like cooking a lot more, so why not give it a shot? Like, I had done my previous job for, like, 2.5 years, so I felt like I put in, like, a good amount of time, but I was ready to just shake it up and try something new. At that point, I was also planning on, like, I was going to move to Colorado that winter to be a ski bum. So I already knew I was leaving my corporate job. So in my mind, it was like, I'll cook in the meantime, and then I'll be gone in, like, September, October to move to the mountains. But then I fell in love with cooking and never left. So I'm still here.
I find it interesting that you went super safe with this software development job, and then you started dabble in a passion that's been there since childhood with your dad, and now I would assume you're going all in on passion and just wanting to just basically not just like see what happens, but I think you've already done that. I think you were like, this is it.
Yeah.
How was that experience now at Vintage full time? It started getting a little wild, I'm sure. And let's start walking through that process of you just getting fully indoctrinated in food, and corporate job is now in the past.
Yeah.
And now you're following your passion.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. It was kind of like a damper had been lifted from my life. I was like, oh my gosh, like I love going to work and I love the people I'm working with, and I don't have to like follow these like corporate rules or these guidelines. I can just like be myself and have fun, and started like getting tattoos and cutting my hair.
Wild.
And I was like, I can do whatever I want. I know, it's crazy. And so, yeah, just kind of diving in was great. And again, I worked with the best team. So quickly, the people I worked with every day became the people that I hung out with after work and outside of work. And it really just became my life.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
Do you ever find yourself thinking to your, like, I made that jump and I wish either I would have done that sooner, or do you feel like it was the right timing for you at the time?
I feel like it was the right time.
Okay.
I think I'm glad I put my time in like the corporate world and got enough experience under my belt that if I want to go back, it's not like I only did it for 2 months and stuff.
Sure.
And I also really, again, I loved my corporate job and I had a great time and it afforded me a fun life. And it was great. I had a great team there too.
You often hear people that get stuck in these, I mean, a lot of people call them like golden handcuffs, where you get used to a certain lifestyle. You don't really love what you do. In fact, sometimes you hate what you do, but you're there for the paycheck just to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And people go through life 20, 30, 40 years of this just to retire, maybe find a passion at that point in time. Maybe they never do.
Yeah.
I know this sounds so cliche, but I would love, like, why have you early on made that jump? Why was it so important for you to make that call and say, you know what, I don't want to look back 10, 20, 30 years from now and wish I would have done that. I wish I would have been in the kitchen more or did that vintage job. What would you say those people do? I don't know, just dive in and don't look back.
Honestly, it was a lot of my dad's influence. Again, a lot of it comes back to him. I talked with him through the process, and he shared with me that kind of similarly, he's like, I did not love my job, but I had 7 kids to support, and so I did it. And he always wanted to open a food truck, though. Like, that was all he wanted to do. And so he was like, you have this opportunity, like, go for it. Like, you don't have kids that you need to support. You have enough savings that if you go belly up, like, you'll be okay for a little bit. Like, you have your family you can fall back on. So, like, you're gonna regret it if you don't try it. So just jump full in and see how it goes, and we'll figure it out from there. Right. And so that's what I did. It was great.
So your dad was the biggest influence at that time. Was he the one pushing you? He was like, I wish I would have done it. Julie, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill you. Was that some of the conversation?
Not quite. He was very supportive.
Okay.
I was honestly, like, when I told him I was considering it, at first I was scared because I was like, wow, like, my parents have invested a lot in my education, and now I've spent like 2 years using my education and I'm just leaving. Like, that felt like I was like letting them down, or I was worried that they would feel that way. But he was so supportive and was like, do what you love. Like, you learned a lot at school, whether it was about like software or just about like life and what you want to do with your life and how you want to handle your life. So he really encouraged me to do it, but also like had my back if I decided no.
That's really cool.
He's wonderful.
That's a very supportive, like, parent as well as a dad. Is he more of like just a really good friend now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's great. Like, later that year, him and I went to Europe together for like a month.
Oh, that's
awesome. It was
awesome.
so fun.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at Vintage. You're in it.
Yes.
You're in it. Things are popping off. Walk me through those early days of you just going on full time now there and being a part of the team. They're teaching you. There's literally, it's so funny because you probably have already put this together, but the chaos that you had at home is the kitchen. that environment
Yeah.
that you had with 7 other siblings or 6 other siblings, your family just running around like crazy.
Yeah.
Like that is like I'm home because
Yeah.
there's chaos.
Yeah, it
in
felt
the
very
kitchen.
familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Talk to me about those days. How did you find yourself in a new family that you really
Yeah.
enjoyed?
It was crazy. I decided, like, if I'm going to do this jump, I'm going to dive full in. I'm going to try to get every shift that's offered to me. If they need someone to volunteer to work overnight, I'll do it. Like, I'm not going to, like, half-ass this opportunity.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
going to, like, go full in and see everything I can do. And it was a lot. It was a ton of learning. It was a ton of messing up. I think within, like, the first week of being full-time, I accidentally chopped off, like, part of my thumb. It was, like, great.
Can I see it? I kind of want to see your
can't-
thumb now.
You can't see it too much. It was just, like, this front corner.
Okay.
Here.
So you
But
chopped
yeah, I
off
just
you chopped off
my
your thumb.
Had to go to urgent care, and I was like, wow, okay, this is my life now. Great. It was fun.
What were you cutting? Just out of curiosity.
I was cutting a bunch of herbs.
Okay.
Yeah, I like had them all bundled up, and I wasn't great with a knife yet, and so like against my knuckles, but my thumb crept forward and just
lopped it.
yeah, it was pretty gross.
Gee. So I on TikTok I see these guys that they're like there's like these speed guys. I don't know.
Yeah, like
I don't know if they're actually like that's all they do. It
Yeah.
feels like maybe they're not cooks. Maybe they just cut for a living. I
Yeah.
don't know. You were honing that skill.
Yeah.
You were honing in on how to cut faster.
Yeah.
Lopped off your finger. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
blood's everywhere. You're like, great start.
I was like, yeah, sick.
Awesome.
I have to throw all
Love
this
this.
food away. There's a piece of my thumb on the cutting board. That's disgusting.
So kind of a rough start.
Yeah, but it was fun. And honestly, like, I was feeling like super embarrassed. I was like, wow, I'm so bad with a knife. I even cut off my
Was there a lot of
finger.
people there that kind of witnessed it, or were you the only one?
No, there's other people there,
Okay.
but everyone was like so supportive and like, yeah, it's a badge of honor. Like you're in. Like that's initiation. Like, you got a bad injury. You lost part of a finger.
I love it.
3 people on the team were like, yeah, me too. I was like,
Oh,
oh, great.
yeah,
We all have
yeah.
matching thumb injuries. But yeah, honestly, that experience was great because I was like, oh wow, okay, that was like a big error, but
Yeah.
and it hurt, but like everyone-
physically or like emotionally?
Physically, emotionally, I was embarrassed, like
Yeah.
the whole gamut. But everyone was so like supportive and kind and made it fun, and I was like, wow, I love this.
Yeah.
Like a group of people that sees a mistake and makes light of it and doesn't like hold me against it for forever. Like we moved on within like 3 days. Didn't talk about the thumb again. It was great. I know other people on the team have like lost little bits of finger. It's like a club. It's not a big deal.
I would agree that that's probably just a rite of passage. At
Yeah.
some point, things are going to happen. I see people, and maybe this is not the professional approach, but with chainmail, gloves on.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's not the way to do it, but
Probably was a little
that's
speed,
funny.
but
Okay,
yeah.
so you made some mistakes early on.
Yeah.
Where did you fit into the team? Like, what position did you assume or fall into or rise up to the occasion to be in this high performance type of environment?
It's hard like looking at your own life and being like, where did I fit in? But I think that I fit into the spot of someone who was just kind of gritty and was down to work. I did all kinds of things in the kitchen, and that's a great thing about this group is there's a really big effort to kind of get everyone through every position. But yeah, I kind of fit in wherever I needed. I did a lot of dishes. I fried a lot of French fries. I worked the hotline,
Yeah.
worked expo, did all of it.
How many were like hardcore, like the team that was at Vintage? How many different people were there?
Ooh, let me think. I think at that point there was like maybe 7 or 8 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys were making ripples. Why was I hearing what's happening at Vintage through the grapevine? I mean, this isn't stuff that was like in publications. Like this was like friends coming up to me and be like, "Have you heard what like good things were happening?" Was it just at some point in time you guys made the call of like, you know what, we're going to elevate this. We're going to make this something that all of us, all 7, 8 of us are super proud of. Did you walk into that, or was that kind of the growth when you were there?
I think I walked into it.
Okay.
I think the credit for a lot of that goes to Colin. He was the first one at Vintage, so he used to work every prep shift and every service shift on his own, and he kind of developed a small team of people that really helped grow it, and then it kept growing and growing, and then somewhere, like, after he'd been there maybe a year or 2, I don't know the timeline, is when I joined in. So, but he has, like, such a passion for food and such a high standard for, like, quality that I think it was his food that really started kind of making those ripples at first. He also, we joke around about this, like, priced it, like, way too cheap at first. So that was, I mean, it was an accident, but also looking back, I'm like, it was a great marketing ploy.
Yeah.
It wasn't on purpose,
Yeah.
but it was like, wow, you can get this incredible food for like $5.
Right.
It's like incredible.
Right.
And then quickly put together, like, we need to raise the prices by like double because the food's worth more.
Yeah. Let's hang there for a while, because I always find that very interesting. It's call it marketing, whatever you would want to call it, the pricing structure of food, of a beverage, of what's going to cause somebody to walk into somewhere and leave either unhappy with the quality or unhappy with how costly it was. That's very important, especially in your world, in the food world. I mean, you might know, you might not. What's the metrics that you guys use in trying to price something out?
So typically what we try to do is have our food cost be around 30% of what the ticket price is. So calculate all the ingredients that go into it, and then that extra 70% should cover labor and all of that.
Rent and whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, expenses.
But there's some exceptions to that, whereas like, let's take a sandwich is a great example. If you calculate the food cost for a sandwich, like a lot of the sandwiches we're eating should be like $18. But people perceive a sandwich as something that is not worth $18, even if the ingredients are expensive. And so there's kind of this like balance of like doing that math, being like, okay, this should cost like $15, and then thinking like, what's the consumer going to think about a $15 sandwich or something like that? And there's some things where it's like, yeah, that feels appropriate. And there's other things where it's like, ooh, yeah, like people aren't going to want to buy that, which sucks.
Sure.
But it's just the way it is. So either we knock that price down or we just don't serve those types of things.
Wow.
Typically, we just avoid serving those types of things because the margins aren't great.
Yeah. What's the highest margin item that you're like, people love, and you're just like, well, let's keep on making it because we make a lot of money with this?
I would say probably the pickles that we serve at dumpling night.
Okay.
We do not make great money on them.
Okay.
But like the food really needs a pickle to go with it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I can't charge like $8 for a little bowl of pickles.
Sure.
No one's going to want to buy that. But if you're eating this bowl of like rice and chicken and mayo and stuff, like you're going to want a little bowl of pickles. It tastes really great together. So that's something that's like, great. We know we're not making our paycheck on pickles, but they elevate the customer experience enough that we need to have those on the menu and just know that like we're not making money on pickles.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's transition away from vintage. Let's just say things happen, and you guys are, lack of a better word, without a job.
Yeah.
Or without a place to pour passion in.
Yeah.
Then what?
That was such a crazy time.
Yeah.
It was fun and it was stressful. There was a lot of like meetings at one of our team members' houses of all of us just sitting in a circle being like, what are we going to do? Like, we are like 1 week out of like making a paycheck. Like what's the plan? So while we were at Vintage, we were doing a decent amount of pop-ups at American Solera, and we made great money on those. And that was a great time to like exercise, like try out like different recipes and see if people liked them, and try different like concepts and see if people liked them. And we got great responses from a lot of those, and also like great responses on like, ooh, people didn't really love that one. We're not gonna like keep doing that.
Sure.
And so we found that throughout all of those, when we sold dumplings at American Solera, we would sell out like quickly, and the line would be like super long. So we were like, great, dumplings are something that people love, and we're not making any money right now, so we need to find a place to go sell dumplings so we can make paychecks.
Sure.
And so we were talking to like Solera and places like that, but once we left Vintage, we were out of a kitchen to prep in. And with Solera, they have bubs there like during the day, so you really can just show up and serve food, but you can't necessarily do all of your prep there. But previous to that, Justin and Katie had come in to a dinner at Vintage and like loved our food, and at least from what I've heard of the story is they kind of made an offer of like, hey, if you ever need anything, like just let us know. And they're just they're such nice people.
Yes,
so that week we were like, I guess we'll reach out to them and just see like if we could use the Foolish Things kitchen to prep food to sell there somewhere else. And those discussions turned into bigger discussions of like, what if we just set up shop there, and what if we bought some fridges, and what if we did all of this? And that kind of spiraled into what this is now. We set up a GoFundMe at the time to start getting equipment. We raised like $10,000, which was, it was so
Clutch.
Incredible. It was so incredible. I'm so grateful for like the people of Tulsa and like friends and family. And I remember I would just like read through the GoFundMe and see who donated and just cry. I'd be like, I can't believe like my great aunt Karen donated.
That's
and like
awesome.
these people, it was so sweet and such like overwhelming amount of support. But that gave us the capital we needed to like buy a fridge, buy ingredients, and start selling food. So that's kind of what birthed this. I don't know if we knew at the time if it was going to be long-term, short-term. At that point, we were really thinking, like, we're going to get a brick and mortar spot. So, like, we're going to sell dumplings and tacos for, like, a couple months. And then we're going to have our own spot and we'll start building that.
Okay.
But things popped off so well here that it was like, what if we just keep doing this?
Hung out for a little while.
Yeah.
So that's where we're sitting in today. We're sitting in Foolish Things. Over here on the side where, as you actually can see right behind you, we're in the middle of dumpling preparations. When you guys prepare dumplings, like how long of a process is that for you guys?
It's a long process. Honestly, that's another thing we don't have great margins on, our dumplings. It's a ton of labor, but they're so tasty. So it's like, well, honestly for us, selfishly, we're like, we'll just serve them anyway.
Right.
We'll make it work.
Right. So you've been here at Foolish for how long now?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, just over 2 years.
I didn't realize it was that long. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
It's
Do you
great.
feel like you're still 2 years in very happy here, or kind of getting the itch?
I think there's a bit of both. Okay. I think that in some ways this is like the best option. It's an incredible deal. Like Justin and Katie have been so generous with us on like what cut they get, and just even like letting us use this whole side of the restaurant to like do our prep in. And like honestly, this building is great. Like there's a big parking lot, but we're still downtown, so the location is really nice. But also there are some like things that aren't great about it. Like we have to shuttle all of our food into the kitchen every night and shuttle all of it back down, and because they need their coffee shop kitchen during the day. So that adds like a couple hours to every single shift, and it is kind of draining. But I would say like for now, I think everyone's like for the most part pretty happy. We've done a lot of work this past year of really investing in this space to make it as comfortable as it can be with sharing it with a coffee shop.
So you're kind of on the edge of like very happy here, but if an opportunity arises, we might.
I think we're not saying no to anything right now, like trying to keep our options open and our eyes open, but we're not like desperate to like make a change or do something. We're pretty comfortable.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been with this crew 3-4 years?
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's call it 3 years. Now what?
Yeah.
Let's dive right in. You've been a part of the crew it's risen up and really created something special.
Yeah.
We didn't even go into the nomination part. Let's before we go into the future, let's talk about how that all transpired.
It was absolutely insane. Yeah, I was actually on a shopping trip that morning to get dumpling wrappers, and I got a text from someone like, "Congrats on James' beard." And I was like, that's weird, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke. I don't know. But then I got back to the restaurant and everyone was like, "We got James' beard." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And yeah, we literally found out from someone on Instagram who DM'd our account and was like, "Hey, congrats on the award." What award?
What?
We looked it up and we're like, "Oh my gosh." I seriously looked at it like 10 times. Yeah. I was like, there's no way. Like, this is a fake James beard. Or this is like a knockoff. Or it's like the Onion of James' beard. Like, they probably spelled it different or like something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got nominated for Best New Restaurant last year.
Did someone sneak in and try it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the way it works, my impression of it, is that they have like, scouts that go out to all of these restaurants, but they don't tell you like that they're scouting for James' beard.
I get it.
So what we were told is that people had been coming in for the past like year, like kind of since we opened, like trying our food, especially as it got closer to like award season.
Sure.
And then they I guess put you on a list, but you don't know that you're part of the process at all. You don't know that people are coming to your stuff. If they are, you don't know who they are, so you can't give them like a free dessert or something like that.
Right.
It's just how you treat every customer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess we have like some guesses on like. After it came out, we were like, oh, maybe that girl that was at Butter Bar by herself taking notes. Like, was she one of them? Or that guy that was sitting there, was he one of them? So we have some guesses, but.
So when the nomination happened, was it an overnight, like, everybody's like, because you guys were already at that point in time pretty popular, like, locally grown, like, Tulsa knew, for the most part, what was going on. Talk to me about that night, or maybe the next couple weeks, like what was happening? What happened?
Yeah, so it was a Wednesday, so it was dumpling night.
Okay.
And so there was like 45 minutes of all of us like sitting on our phones and being like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing," and like posting about it. And then there was a moment of like, we have guests coming in like 5 hours. Okay, everyone get back to work. Shoot. Okay, we have to serve food tonight.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, and it's going to be busy because we're on this list now.
Yeah.
And that night was crazy, but it was so fun. It was like regulars coming in and being like, congrats. And a lot of people posting on Instagram being like, I knew about et al. Before it was popular, before this.
Exactly.
And it was like, it was a very fun like support of like our community that we had already grown and getting this influx of people that hadn't heard of us before. And yeah, honestly, since then, we've really been a lot busier and it's been great. Yeah.
Well, good for you
We're so
guys.
grateful for that award.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm sure, I don't know what the percentage is on restaurants getting even nominated.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's very, very low. So that was really cool to see.
They do, 50 new restaurants in the United States.
Okay.
So we were top 50.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't win the award, but we were nominated, so we're calling that. we're top
enough.
50, and we're calling that good enough. Yeah.
Future. So you've been a part of this team, learned a ton. Why? What? Where? Like, let's dive in. What are you up to now?
Yeah, so I'm actually transitioning out of the group right now, which I'm so sad about. But yeah, I'm going to head back into the world of IT.
Okay.
Hopefully fully remote so I can travel a bit.
Okay.
But the motivation behind it was a super hard decision. And I've cried so much about it. But for me, this job is amazing. But working like evenings every night and weekends has been really, it's been wearing down on me. And I feel like, especially with so much family in Tulsa, I'm like, I want to spend time with like my family and my friends. And it's been hard working here and being able to do that just because of the demand and the hours, which is typical for any restaurant job or bar job. But I think after 3 years of it, I'm a little bit burnt out, not of like work, but burnt out of like the full lifestyle commitment of working these hours in this type of job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping to get something again, like totally remote so I love traveling, so I can travel a lot and go see.
Do you find that software development, what you are up to, do you find that that's pretty easy to do? I mean, is that I don't know what's it rated on the probability scale or remote scale, but do you find that that's, I assume that's a pretty easy job to do remote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say a lot of, as far as my job search has gone, a lot of like the tech companies and things are fully remote.
Yeah.
And yeah, I keep saying this, like when I go to a new job, it won't be near as fun as this. Like nothing will ever be as fun as this. But I'm hoping that I can kind of rebuild my life outside of work and get a little bit more of a balance once I switch.
I love it. Leaving, pursuing, going back to software. Obviously you don't hate it because you're going back to it.
Yeah.
When you go home, I think I've already asked this question. Actually on the panel, I believe I asked this question, but I'm so fascinated. Especially when you're going back to tech. When you get home, what does Julia want to eat? What are you making? Are you back in the kitchen at home with your dad? Like, what are you preparing? If you were to actually not throw something in the microwave, spend some time on something, what are you making?
It's a great question. I love pasta, honestly.
Okay.
So I make myself a lot of pasta at home. I love
Give me
making
more
a sauce.
pasta. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you make your own like red like how deep do you go into this world of pasta?
It kind of just depends on what I'm in the mood for. That's like basically my whole style of cooking. It's like what sounds good to me right now. I'm like, great, that's the dinner I'm gonna make.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love really every type of pasta. Yeah, a red sauce, like an Alfredo type sauce, like cacio e pepe, like just even like brown butter sauce, or like simple to complex.
You are Italian. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We've already talked about
I don't think it's anywhere in my heritage, but I'll claim a little bit of it.
Okay, so do you venture into the world of making your own pasta?
I tried one time, and I will probably never do that again. It was so hard.
Okay.
And the box noodles tasted better.
Okay.
So I was like, And I don't have a pasta machine, so that would change things. But like the dough is so tough. Like rolling it out, like I was genuinely like full sweating, like having a bad time, like rolling it, cutting it, and then I sat down to eat it, and I was like, this is not very good. It's great.
What did I do here?
I spent hours doing this. It's like, sweet, next time I'm just buying a box.
In the kitchen, obviously there's lots of different roles. It sounds like you've done everything. What's your favorite?
I love working expo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the hustle and bustle of like throwing things out the window.
Yeah. I think it is like that chaos that I love. Like tickets are coming in, boards full, you're running a kitchen, telling people when to fire things, when we need stuff. And that, for my brain, is like, it's just the best. I feel like I can just zone out, and I'm just like working, and then the shift's over. I'm like, whoa, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I work best in like a high stress situation, I think. And that is like the perfect like stress level that I just find so much joy in.
Really?
Yeah, I love it so much.
That's not most people.
I know.
Why do you enjoy high stress, probably a lot of yelling, or maybe it's the kitchen, so you can't yell too much because you're right there by the guests, but like why do you gravitate towards that, you think?
I don't know. It's just something about like the pressure. It's like you can't get bored.
Yeah.
And you also can't mess up. And so, or you can mess up, but it is consequential.
Sure.
And so there's something about that that's like exhilarating. It's like a rush. And also it's like working with this team, it's like amazing people. I think I would hate it if I was working with people that did not know what they were doing or were bad at their jobs, like quite frankly. But I'm working with some of like the best chefs I feel like in this city. And so when I'm like, I need dumplings in 2 minutes, and I need karage in 5, like, it's like, yes, chef, and it's done. And so you don't have to have any like yelling or like meanness. It's just like
more respect.
It's like a well-oiled machine that everyone is just working, and we always have music playing, and it's like kind of like that stressful fun vibe where you're like kind of dancing. You're like, wow, this is great. I'm not going to cry. Cool, let's keep going.
So there's a kitchen playlist.
Oh yeah.
Who sets that playlist, and what's on that playlist?
Oh, it just depends on who's working that night. I honestly, if I'm working, I usually claim aux.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your aux chord? Like, what's flowing through that sucker? Like what is some go-to? You might already have them prepped. It might be on the fly. What are you listening to?
I feel like I have like different categories of music I like to play. Usually like when dumpling night starts, like 5 o'clock hits, I want something that's like upbeat but not like too stressful.
Okay.
And so I usually play Soak Up the Sun, and then the radio that goes from there. It's like some early 2000s, soft pop, little country. It's like very fun. Sheryl Crow. Yeah.
Okay.
But then once it hits like 8 or 9 and everyone's getting kind of tired and we've run through that whole playlist, I'll switch to like today's pop, or I love like pop punk, or like something a little bit more like intense, or that's like keeps people on their toes. And then once close hits, then it's just whatever we're feeling. Me and Chloe, every time we're in the dish pit together, we play Celine Dion and just like sing as loud as we can. And it's great.
You're a Celine fan, huh?
Yeah, just that one song that's like, baby, baby, baby. Yeah. Play that song, touch me like this. Yeah. We actually did it for we did staff karaoke one night at our holiday party, and Chloe and I performed that. It was very fun.
That was the pick.
Yeah. But it's always just like good vibes. It feels like a party, honestly. Yeah. Like good music. I love the people I work with. They're the people I hang out with outside of work.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a blast. Yeah.
I love it. All right, we're going to wrap. Thank you so much for being on the pod.
Yeah.
I'm always so curious of a lot of people, where they're in life, and I feel like I've definitely got to know you a little bit better here. Yeah. I'm so happy for you up to this point, and then obviously what the future holds.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.